Let me tell you something, there's nothing quite like having $1 million HOA Karen call the cops on your illegal lakeside cabin while having no clue that you, personally, own the dock permits her $50 million neighborhood. Depends on to keep its property values from sinking like a stone. Yeah, you heard me. That's exactly how my year started. 6 a.m., coffee in hand, sitting on the dock of Lake Clearwater, minding my own business. And here comes a cop car with Linda right on its tail, shrieking in yoga pants about how my grandpa's 75-year-old cabin is ruining her community. If you've ever dreamed about taking down a petty dictator, oh buddy, this one's for you. But let me back up, because if you want to understand how I ended up at war with the most powerful woman in Clearwater Shores, you need the whole story. My name's Jake Morrison. I'm 52 years old, a retired electrician, and up until recently just a guy trying to get his head straight after a messy divorce. You know how it goes sometimes. You need a project to keep your hands busy and your mind from spiraling. About 8 months back, I inherited my granddad's old fishing cabin on a lake. Nothing fancy, just a weathered 1940s shack he built with his own 2 hands after coming home from the war. Smelled like cedar and lake air, creaked when the wind blew, but to me, it was paradise. I figured I'd fix it up, maybe teach my grandson how to fish, keep the old Morrison tradition alive. And that's when I met Linda Ashworth, Queen Bee of the Clearwater Shores Premium Community, president of the HOA, white Mercedes always sparkling, married to a bank VP, and carrying the kind of smile that could cut glass. You know the type, nice until she's not. I'll never forget that first morning. I'm out sanding the dock, sun just coming up, river rocks cool under my boots, feeling pretty damn peaceful. Then I hear heels on a dock. Click, click, click. I look up, and there's Linda, all smiles and welcome to the neighborhood. But her eyes are taking inventory of every so-called flaw on my little cabin. I play nice. Morning, ma'am. Beautiful day, huh? She goes, absolutely. I just wanted to discuss bringing your property up to community standards. And right then, I knew this wasn't neighborly concern. This was a warning shot. I told her, look, this cabin was built in '47, way before any HOA existed. Pulled out the original building permit, which I'd started carrying after getting a few side eyes from the newer folks. Everything's legal, grandfathered, but Linda wasn't fazed. Her voice got chilly. That shack doesn't belong here. It's bringing down everyone's property values. You need to fix it, or well, find a way to remove it. Now, let me tell you, folks like Linda, they're used to people folding under pressure. They count on their titles, their lawyers, their connections. But what Linda didn't know was that my granddad, God rest him, was the kind of guy who never threw away a contract, receipt, or scrap of legal paper in his life. And he taught me that if you've got your paperwork in order and your ducks lined up, bullies don't stand a chance. Didn't take long for Linda to go on the offensive. 3 days after our little chat, a county building inspector rolls up, clipboard in hand, already convinced I'm in the wrong. Jake Morrison, there's been a complaint about unpermitted structures. Sure enough, the complaint is on HOA letterhead, signed by Linda, full of accusations about lake setbacks, modifications, you name it. The inspector's poking around, taking pictures, but not of the foundation, not of my careful restoration, just the old siding and rusted hinges. But here's where Linda made her first mistake. 30 years as an electrician, I know my way around permits and inspections. I head to my truck, grab Grandpa's old Army surplus, filing box hinges squealing, stuffed with every document back to 1947. Survey maps, building permits, even correspondence with the county, all stamped and official. The inspector's face changed so fast you'd think he'd swallowed a bug. Sir, your paperwork is actually better than most new construction. That's when I point out, while you're measuring, maybe check the newer houses. Some decks push over the property lines, including Linda's. Sure enough, the inspector finds Linda's deck is 3 feet into easement territory. She got her violation notice that afternoon. Same day, I got my clean report. Sweetest sound I'd heard since my base hit the frying pan that night. But did that stop her? Not a chance. Next came the smear campaign. Linda started a Facebook group protecting our community standards full of unflattering photos of my cabin and scare tactics about declining values. She made restoration work look like vandalism, progress look like rot. I kept quiet. I'm not one for drama. Besides, I was busy digging through Grandpa's old papers finding gold every time. Meanwhile, the old-timers, the ones who remembered when the lake was about fishing and peace, not property values, started coming around. My neighbor Earl, retired machinist, brought over a six-pack and stories about how Grandpa protected the land, knowing the developers would come. Some newer folks would whisper support at the hardware store. But public support? No way. Nobody wants to cross the HOA president. Then Linda doubled down, announced an emergency HOA meeting about non-conforming structures. She paraded out City Councilman Bradley Walsher Tennis Buttato, whip up support for a special assessment to pay for lawyers, demanded $50,000 from me to bring the cabin up to standards. Petitions, PowerPoints, angry neighbors. She played the politics like a fiddle. But see, while she was playing chess, I was playing detective. I spent 3 days in the county courthouse's musty basement, drinking coffee that tasted like burnt tires, digging through deeds and easements dating back to the 1920s. That's where I found it, buried in the 1994 sale agreement. Grandpa didn't just sell access to the lake. He kept ownership of every dock and boat slip. The HOA had been collecting fees on property they didn't legally control, and every single permit needed the Morrison family's written approval. That's me. Let me tell you, when you're sitting in a basement holding the legal equivalent of a nuclear warhead, you start thinking carefully. I went to the HOA attorney not looking for a fight, just wanting peace. Slid the deed across his desk, watched him go pale. "This is ironclad," he muttered, reading it 3 times. I told him, "I just want to fix my cabin and be left alone. Tell Linda before things get messy." Word got out fast. Earl said Linda tried to get me banned from the hardware store. Marina owner mentioned she claimed dock ownership for insurance, and the air in the community shifted. Linda denied everything in public, but behind the scenes was panicking. Linda's next move? Accused me of environmental violations. She called the state, claimed I was polluting the lake. But Grandpa had filed a conservation easement back in 1952. Every modification I made was eco-friendly. Meanwhile, Linda's own properties were caught using chemical fertilizers right up to the water's edge. The inspector told her, "Your community has violations, not Mr. Morrison." To top it off, my security cameras caught her son spray painting "Go Home" on my cabin and Linda herself removing my property markers at 2 in the morning. I kept documenting everything: photos, recordings, timestamps. When tools started vanishing, I installed more cameras. The local inspector told me she's filed 17 complaints in 2 years, 16 were bogus. We're starting to flag her calls. Still, she organized community patrols, spread rumors I was running a meth lab, pressured the marina to revoke my boat launch. All the while, I kept fixing up the cabin, replacing boards, replanting native flowers, honoring Grandpa's legacy. The storm was building. I could feel it. And then I struck gold, a second metal box in the crawl space, oilcloth wrapped, holding the original 1994 contract. Grandpa hadn't just kept dock ownership written in that every single water permit in the development needed Morrison approval. The HOA's entire waterfront was built on permits I controlled. My attorney said, "You could revoke every dock permit tomorrow. That's $2 million leverage." But that wasn't justice, that was just payback. There were good people in the neighborhood, young families, retirees. I didn't want to ruin them for Linda's crimes. So I decided I'd use it to force peace, not profit. Demand Linda's resignation, guarantee my cabin's protection, and create a conservation fund for the lake. We prepared binders, timelines, testimony from local fishing guides. My allies, Earl, the marina owner, the inspector, helped gather evidence. The community started turning. Homeowners refused to pay Linda's special assessments. Her husband's bank was getting nervous about the headlines. My attorney drafted a settlement. I'd grant dock easements if Linda resigned and the harassment stopped. Linda ignored it, went for broke. She tried bribery, offered cash to the inspector to find violations, tried to buy off the marina owner. Both reported her. Finally, Linda called a last emergency meeting, invited the press, city council, the whole town. Claimed she'd expose my illegal occupation. The community center was packed. She gave her big speech, presented doctored photos, riled up the crowd. But when it was my turn, I stood up, laid the original 1994 contract on the podium, and read aloud the clause giving my family total control of all docks and permits. The room went silent. The county commissioner read the contract, confirmed it was legit, and that was that. I offered permanent easements to all residents, on the sole condition that the HOA leave me in peace, redirect illegal dock fees to a conservation fund, and that Linda resigned. Linda had a meltdown worthy of reality TV. Security escorted her out. The board unanimously accepted her resignation. The dock fees funded the first annual Morrison Lake cleanup. Day 50 volunteers showed up, including folks who'd once supported Linda. My cabin became a symbol of history, conservation, and standing up for what's right. In the months that followed, property values went up, the marina business boomed, and our water quality program even won a state award. My grandson learned to fish where 4 generations of Morrisons had stood. My ex-wife called, impressed by how I'd handled things. No, we're not getting back together, but for the first time in years, we're talking. And Linda? Move away, house sold. Her name became a cautionary tale about what happens when you build power on fraud and threats. I'll tell you, the taste of victory is sweeter when it comes with community pride and old family traditions. Sometimes, justice doesn't look like revenge, it looks like restoration. So, let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you have gone nuclear? Or is there more power in patience and preparation? Drop your wildest HOA stories below, believe me. I read every single one. And if you want to hear what happened when an HOA president tried to foreclose on a disabled vet's house, well, stick around for next week's story. You won't believe what explosives can do in the right hands.